And yeah, so this one, I think like what you said, like it's almost ascribing too much meaning to the name. In fact, if they take the name, I'm like, good, take the name, man.
Yeah, it's cheesy as fuck.
It's cheesy as fuck. At least repertory theatre,
There's
people
something elegant about it.
don't
right?
understand the word. You're like, oh, it feels a bit like cultured and sophisticated. A Singapore Theatre Company.
Yeah.
STC.
It's the kind of placeholder that you put in like contracts and documents. Like, oh yeah, we're signing a contract with this Singapore Theatre Company. We just put there in brackets, Singapore Theatre Company.
Like the what?
Quotes.
Quotes. For aforementioned known as Singapore Theatre Company. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yala, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Terrence?
Good old humor.
Good old humor, man.
Yeah.
So now we're in the AC period of Singapore.
After Coldplay.
Yeah,
that's right. No more.
After Coldplay.
Nothing about Coldplay anymore.
Nothing about Coldplay. Now all gearing up for Taylor Swift.
TS.
TS. Yeah. Now you're at
BTS.
BTS, man.
Pun.
Yeah, I think that will be like, that will be another. I think that will be even more insane.
It will. Yeah. I'm. If anything, this reminded me. This is probably the most of the sort of like cultural craziness in Singapore for the longest time since like I don't know, maybe when Michael Jackson was here.
What do you mean cultural craziness? Like everyone getting
everyone getting excited about a band or a celebrity being in Singapore and for an extended period, and like every move of theirs was watched. You know, when Michael Jackson went to eat with Aming the orangutan at the Singapore Zoo.
Yeah.
And then he was staying at Raffles Hotel. And back then there wasn't even the internet. That was the crazy thing. And we already knew about all these things. Yeah.
Imagine if football was to that level.
If
like Singapore gets into the Asian Cup and the whole of the country is united and all.
You're talking about back in the days, Malaysia Cup was like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I would say that's equivalent.
That kind of feeling, right?
That feeling,
Shocks, yeah.
Everyone's just can't wait to talk about it.
The country almost comes to a standstill.
Yeah, every time there's a match. Yeah.
Okay lah, but
Coldplay lah. That's what it takes to unite.
Coldplay lah. Taylor Swift, foreign talent. Literally foreign talent lah.
Yeah.
But I mean, kudos to Coldplay again for giving so much time to Riley and Jasmine Sokko, like half an hour sets.
Correct.
Pretty good lah.
And donating free tickets to migrant workers.
Yeah, but that one, don't know whether Coldplay had
Did they? They donated directly, right?
Yeah, but it was through the non-profit that they partnered with.
Okay. I mean, still, that even just saying yes, I think that's a good thing already.
Yeah. So, well done, Chris Martin and team.
Yeah.
But yeah, so new phase of Singapore.
New phase, moving on. Welcome to February. Also.
Yeah. Apparently, the first few weeks of February might reach 35 degrees.
Oh, God, yeah. I feel it already. I'm feeling it already. Yeah.
But life has to go on, man.
Yeah.
I mean, like interesting stuff happening the past few days, which we will jump right into.
Yeah.
But before that, what's the normal spiel, Terrence?
The normal spiel is that if this podcast means anything to you or you found value in it from anything you've seen, whether it's shorts or Instagram or anything, please consider subscribing or following us on any of these platforms, because that really helps us get the word out about this podcast.
Yeah. And the abnormal part of the call, the spiel today, is it's that time of the year again for us to do our call for an intern. And this time, we need someone who's a badass at social media and project management.
Yeah.
But why? Why these two areas, Terrence?
I think we just reached a point where, there's a lot of things, projects on our plate.
Yeah.
Some of them, viewers or listeners have seen or experienced in the last year, like afterlife support, right? Folklore, obviously, something that we're working a lot on. And so we just realized we need a pair of like young eyes to look at things. Yeah. Because we're getting a bit old already for that side of things.
And also to like make sure everything goes according to plan lah. Because sometimes, I mean, it can just be like, that's why the project management part is just having the ability to keep an eye on everything that's happening. And I mean, we say intern, but it's really not restricted by age.
Yeah.
Right? We want someone who's full-time, and basically, I mean, even if you haven't had that much experience in those areas, but you are willing to learn and just excited to do cool shit, right? Because what Terrence said, we have Folklore, which is an audio startup that we are building. We have Yalabat. We have more scripted podcasts potentially coming, a TV show in the works, and we're going to be doing more stuff like that.
Yeah.
So don't worry if you haven't had experience in that. If you've got time on your hands, maybe you're taking a career break, but you want to get your hands dirty and do a lot of stuff, yeah, just email us at contact@ministryoffunny.com with your resume, and we will get on a call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think the main thing is be excited to do cool shit. But yeah, that's the spiel.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
And so let's talk about people doing cool shit.
Yeah. And social media.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing that has been a lot in the news over the past day or two is clips that have gone viral of primarily the TikTok CEO, Shou Chu, who went viral last year during a congressional hearing. There was a Senate hearing this year, a few days ago, with him and the CEOs of 4 other big-ass social media companies, namely Meta, Snap, Discord, and X. All the CEOs were there.
Yep.
And the thing that went viral was the repeated interrogation of him by a US senator called Tom Cotton, who went on about like what's his nationality, whether he has ties to China, the Chinese Communist Party, so and so. So that's gone viral, and a lot of people are slamming it as being racist and ignorant. But I mean, that whole hearing took place. It was 4 hours, and the main topic of interest was the safety of children and social media's impact on it. So that was the context of what happened. What made you want to talk about this?
I think there's a lot of buzz online, especially among Singaporeans, about how ignorant and potentially even racist the Senator Tom Cotton sounds, where he equates allegedly equates shows, race as a Chinese person, of ethnicity as a Chinese person, to him having links to the Chinese Communist Party, which you look at his face, Shou's face, is incredulous. He's like, he literally is saying, I even served 2 years in the military in Singapore and all that. I have nothing to do with China, which is, I think, a very common refrain that us Singaporean men do. Like when you think about what makes you Singaporean, I served 2 years in the military, or
Singaporean.
That's the thing. That's a very Singaporean response to that question, I suppose.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are jumping on that. I think even South China Morning Post wrote about it and all that, right?
Yeah. So I mean, the questions literally and the exchange was something along the lines of, okay, have you ever been a member of the Chinese? I think it started off by saying, what is your citizenship? And then he said, I'm Singaporean. Like, have you ever had a citizenship of another country? No. Have you ever applied to be a citizen of China? No. Have you been a member of the Chinese Communist Party? And then Chu replied, Senator, I'm Singaporean. Have you ever been associated or affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party? No, Senator, again, I'm Singaporean. So that went on, and you can watch the clips widely. But I mean, that was part of, I think, the main conversation between Tom Cotton and Shou was 8.5 minutes ish.
Yeah.
But like off the bat, right? There's been a lot of people saying it's condescending, it's racist, he's ignorant, he's an idiot. That's Tom Cotton. Well, what's your take?
I think it's important to understand what the congressional hearing is for, right? I mean, and the definition literally is a meeting or session of Senate, House, Joint, or Special Committee of Congress, usually open to the public.
Oh, I thought it's a Senate committee hearing.
Yeah. So is it congressional or
it's
Senate?
Okay, Senate Judiciary.
But it's okay.
Hearing.
Senate hearing. But it's usually open to the public to obtain information and opinions on legislation, or to conduct investigation or evaluate and oversee activities of a government department or the implementation of federal law. So I think the key words there is usually open to the public, right? And the idea of it, it's almost like a very public hearing or airing of what the concerns are on the minds of these senators, right? So there's a show aspect to it as well. Pardon the pun. There's a public display aspect to it as well, which I think people are forgetting and thinking that it's literally that, like, where they are trying to get information and they don't know what they are doing and they are just asking questions of these people, right? I think it'd be a bit naive to think that that's what they're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, what do you think of
You
of
just
that.
did a show there, man. You didn't answer my question, but you just threw it back to me.
What was your question originally?
Like, what do you think? Do you think like all the claims that Tom Cotton asking those questions means he's ignorant and racist?
But I did. I just said. I mean, if I need to TLDR is that he is purposefully doing this to make a point and to get on record show saying certain things, right?
Terrence, it's a yes/no answer. All right, it's a yes/no answer. Don't give me a show. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So essentially, that's the TLDR of what I was saying. How about you?
You're fucking good at going to Senate hearings,
No, I'll be bad at it. But what do you think of it?
No, I actually don't think it's fully ignorant or racist, because like what you said, right? Okay, so what I found weirder were the questions he asked after the excerpts that went viral. Because after like talking, so first of all, asking whether he's a citizen of China, he's applied for citizenship of China. I think Show is also damn good at this. You know how sometimes when you're trying to make a point with someone and they ask you a question that makes you look stupid, or they give you a face that makes you look stupid, and you start second guessing yourself.
Yeah.
I think Show is a master of that. Because he didn't really say, no, I did not apply for citizenship. He said, I'm Singaporean. It's almost like, why the fuck would I apply for Chinese citizenship?
Yeah.
But in and of itself, those questions are not totally incredulous, right? Someone could apply for Chinese citizenship. Someone could be part of the Chinese Communist Party without actually being in China.
Or have affiliations.
Affiliations.
Yeah.
I mean, as recent as 2020 July, there was a Singaporean man who went from an NUS PhD student to working for Chinese intelligence in the US. So there was a case of that. And then, like, being associated doesn't mean you have to be in China. And I think just anecdotally, when I Google online how to join the CCP, it's a long process, but you can. And then also the backstory of Show, he was the CFO for Xiaomi for like 6 years. No, he was CFO. He was a CFO of ByteDance. And then before that, he was at Xiaomi.
Yeah.
And then now he's the CEO of TikTok. And of course, TikTok has done a lot of things like the Operation Texas, which was his move to house all their data in Texas, managed by Oracle, to distance themselves from China. But those questions, actually, I think it's perfectly fine to ask.
Yeah.
So when people are saying, oh, he's racist, he's condescending, I'm like, I mean, what do you expect a hearing to be then? Just asking simple questions. Sometimes, I'm pretty sure if you go to watch an actual litigator working in law, right, in the courts, they will be asking questions that are almost obviously they know the answer to.
Yeah.
But one thing, I think we were discussing this before this, and you pointed out that by him having on record Show saying that he has no ties to the Chinese Communist Party, if in future it's revealed that ties, then he's lying under oath. Right? So there's that whole thing. What I found weird was the questions he asked after that, because he was saying like, do you believe that China is committing genocide towards the Uyghurs in Nanjing?
Yeah.
And then like that's where I felt it was he was pressing Show for an answer, and Show was like, many people express this on our platform, blah blah blah. Then he pressed, then he said, do you believe Xi Jinping is a dictator? And then Show tries it. People express their opinions, and he said, so there you have it. You're the CEO of a Chinese influence company and blah blah, who cannot admit. That's why I felt then it becomes incredulous.
Yeah.
But the things that have gone viral, I actually don't see it as racist or condescending.
Yeah. I didn't even see that part about asking him about his nationality as that big a deal, right? Compared to the other events of that day, of like how Mark Zuckerberg was put to the grill and like made to apologize to families of children, right, who have been harmed or are not even with us anymore because of social media and all that, right?
Who were present,
were present in the room as well, right?
Yeah.
So I actually just saw it as, I mean, they want to put Show on record, expressing whether he has affiliations to the party, and it's a very calculated move also, right? Obviously, for this senator to probably appeal to his own base of voters as well, and show that he's like, putting this CEO of a Chinese influence company on the grill, right? I mean, you got to understand political theater for what it is, and I didn't find it being racist or anything. I've experienced much worse, like as you know, a Singaporean going overseas.
Like what? Like what?
I mean, people just rolling down the windows or driving past shouting Jackie Chan and things like that, right? So that is racist, right? But this one, I feel like, okay, he's really trying to pass out shows affiliations to whichever country or interest he has, right?
Yeah.
And obviously they have an agenda, but he didn't. I don't think it went to a racist territory.
But just now when you mentioned that he's appealing to his base, so from what I understand, he's a Republican.
Yeah.
And his main base is right wing.
Yeah.
He also has a history of saying things that are maybe not the friendliest. I think in 2020, he said students from China shouldn't be allowed to study in the US. So he has a history of that. So I can imagine, like, for Americans who already don't like him, maybe you're very left-leaning, this guy's racist. But I'm surprised in Singapore Reddit also, like, so many people are saying this is racist. Not all Asians are the same.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, just because you're not from China doesn't mean you don't have ties. And if I told you, like, there's this guy who's been based in China, worked for a bunch of companies that have, like, people from the CCP on the board, I think ByteDance.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not too far-fetched to think, right? Like, hey, is he involved? And to become the CEO of such a big company, I mean, of course, there's meritocracy, but I think as you get older, you know that these kind of things, there's a lot that play, a lot that come to play. The questions after that I found, like, fucking stupid. But again, like what you said, it's a show,
Yeah.
And yeah, so I guess it's so ironic because he's going viral for the wrong reasons and maybe for the right reasons to his base, as in Tom Cotton, on the platform that he is shitting on. So this whole thing, is really kind of like a circus.
It is. I mean, you can only imagine what conversations before or after the hearing that they have with each other. Because I'm sure they will bump into each other somehow.
You mean the Republicans or the senators, or the senators and the people they're grilling?
Senators and the people they're
grilling. Like, they go and pee in the urinal next to each other.
They'll walk past each other and, maybe they'll give each other a nod. You
think?
Put me on the line, that kind of thing. I mean, the halls of power, like, I think a lot more goes on behind the scenes that is not shown publicly than we know. And I mean, these people are billionaires, very powerful people with and a lot of times in the US, you know how it works, right? A lot of people want to be friends with them for whatever reasons, right? So there's also this aspect of it's a show, right? And they know that their job is to appear very tough on them and grill them to that extent.
Oh, so you think after that, because I actually feel like, I think the antagonism, the tension, right, carries on outside of the room also.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, I think if Sho was having a piss at the urinal and Tom Cotton came in, they would just go and piss next to each other without saying a word.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think money, generally money speaks a lot louder than a lot of these things.
Because I also recall, I can't remember who we were talking to, I think, or we read somewhere that people have said that now politics is so polarized that in the heyday, I think when there was a Senate hearing or congressional hearing, both sides after that will go for lunch together. I don't know whether it was in Asia or the US, but now everything has become so polarized that it is really adversaries in and out of the room. So I don't know.
I feel like you're recalling the wrong side of the anecdote. Like, it's flipped around.
You mean what? No. I am very sure about that, because that struck me as something I can't remember who. So it is from memory. But I remember it was around the debate of now how politics is so polarized, right? That it bleeds out. Yeah. So in this case, I think, like, it'd be damn funny if after that, like, the 5 urinals is the 4 tech CEOs, because 4 males and 1 female, and Tom Cotton in the middle,
in the middle, hanging out
in the middle.
Yeah.
So but I was surprised that Mark Zuckerberg also did the apology.
It wasn't a full apology. Expressed regret and everything, and that they're doing everything they can in their power to help, right?
Yeah.
But Zuckerberg really got it quite rough from the senator, I would say, compared to Sho and everything.
And he and Sho were the only 2 people who showed up willingly.
Oh, is it?
The other 3 needed subpoenas put against them to show up. So the 2 that came willingly, I think also because maybe they have kena the most in Senate or Congress. But I know one thing that was discussed also, I think it was Lindsey Graham said that maybe it's time to relook the Act 230 or something, which is this thing that protects the leaders of tech companies from anything that is said on their platform to safeguard free speech online.
Yeah.
So now they're saying they might have to relook that.
Yeah. And I think, overall, what do you think of what they're doing in this hearing lah? Do you think like it leads to any real action, or is it just for show and everything?
I think just based on what has happened since last year, I mean, to the consumer, can't see that anything changed. So I think actual policies, actual legislation, I think it will just go down this cesspool of polarization that will yield like nothing. But I think the perception of it, maybe people are a bit more aware that, okay, social media actually is not as angelic as it used to be. And there are true dangers. So I think it's more the psychology of people who actually watch a bit of this and realize, oh fuck, there are kids whose suicides have been directly linked to stuff they consume online.
Yeah.
For you?
Yeah, no, actually I thought that was a good thing. Because you think about 10 years ago, what people thought about social media and, precipitating an Arab Spring, and like it brings like communication between people who never speak before to get to each other. I think in the last 10 years, we've seen things like election interference, Russian hacking and everything. That has shown us that social media can be, as much as people, when we thought it could be a force for good, actually it was the complete opposite. And I think they brought up very blatant examples where Zuckerberg shot down the hiring of a group of people to help manage like all this online child sex exploitation stuff, right?
He stopped it.
Yeah, he stopped it. Yeah. Like there are emails leaked that he actually prevented that from happening. They wanted to hire 45 people and he said no. And then they went back with a proposal of a smaller team and everything. Which kind of like, I think you got to look at actions rather than words, right? People say, oh, we're doing our best. But at the end of the day, what actions and what hurts the bottom line for these companies matters the most, right? And they decided not to hire more people to tackle the issue, even though they're saying they're trying their best and all that. So, yeah, I thought it was as much as half these politicians also, half the time they're full of shit, right? But that this issue of the responsibility of these tech companies to actually protect their users, I think it's something that's not discussed enough. Not even just about online sexual exploitation, your privacy, your data, stuff like that, what's being put out there and sold to people and all. I think that's not discussed enough, and we've given the tech companies too much leeway in the last couple of decades to really dictate how we use the internet. And now the legislation is trying to catch up, not doing a great job, but still trying to catch up, right? And we're seeing all these things like POFMA and all that coming out. Also has its own set of problems, but I think we should just never absolve these tech companies of the responsibility to look after the users also.
Actually, that's true, because maybe like 5-6 years ago, Mark Zuckerberg was held like
running for president. Even people were saying at one point, remember, he was doing a tour of all the states, and people were like, wow, is he gearing up for presidential run?
Yeah.
But look at him now, like, can he run for president? No,
but I think actually, like what you said, the mood also. I mean, it felt like the 5 people in the room. I think one of the senators also pointed out. I think it was Lindsey Graham saying that me and Elizabeth Warren, we are two sides of the political spectrum. We disagree on everything, but the one thing that we do agree is tech companies have become too powerful. So in some way, it's rare that I think they're all united against a common, in some way, like, wouldn't say enemy, but an antagonist.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, the feeling now is almost, okay, these 5 people, sure, they are in charge of companies that have literally changed the world, but they need to be held responsible, like what you said. And it almost feels like they're less glorified than they used to be, maybe.
Oh, yeah, far less.
Yeah, but the only thing is about Show, I think he is riding a wave.
He's walked away from all these hearings, I think, in a better light than any of the other CEOs.
Yeah, like the way he does it, I mean, there's some skill there, subconscious or conscious. Then I think, like the minority card, the Asian card. I mean, right now, globally, there's an Asian wave, right? And Show, he's a good-looking young guy. I think he checks all the boxes. So, exactly like what you said, he gets more popular each time.
Yeah.
And I'm sure now his TikTok following, people probably calling him Zaddy again. He doesn't look like he aged a year. Like Zuckerberg looks a bit older, whereas Show is just like glowing skin.
Yeah. And I think there was one point where the Senator John Hawley or something, was just like drilling Zuckerberg and telling him, are you a billionaire? Are you going to compensate any of these victims? And Zuckerberg's like, no, I don't. And then like, no, you're a billionaire, right? You got a lot of money. Are you going to do anything to help victims? Are you going to set up a fund or something like that? Which I think is like, yeah lah. It's not even about your company anymore. It's like you got so much fucking money from this thing. Like, can you do anything? Are you going to drop a single dollar to help these people? And Zuckerberg couldn't say yes lah, right? He will. And that just made him look really bad lah, right?
Especially a few weeks ago, he posted about starting this cattle ranch, which he wants to produce the best quality beef in the world.
Yeah.
Where the cows are fed, I think, champagne, not just beer. And they are massaged and all that. And like, what the fuck? Like, he does these kind of things. So if I think some people might say, I feel bad for the tech CEO, but I don't feel bad at all. They are in extremely powerful positions. Sure, you get stupid questions thrown at you, but even we get stupid questions thrown at us by people just like that, and like we're not billionaires or something. I think any job you get people throwing you questions, and the more influential, the more powerful you have, the more you need to be prepared for this kind of shit. So I don't feel any sympathy for them at all.
This is part of their job, right?
Yeah. The only thing is, on a follow-up interview with Tom Cotton on Fox, he mentioned one thing which I think he said, it's a known fact that Singapore is one of the countries where there's the highest infiltration by the CCP into the society. Yeah, I was like, hey, bro, either you know something I don't, but I know I can totally imagine there's some influence. But I don't know whether we are one of the countries that has the highest.
I mean, hard to say, but the truth is, a lot of Singaporeans do consume Chinese content, right?
That is true.
So just by virtue of the language itself.
And Liang He Zhaobao has a following in China.
Yeah, and we know a lot of uncles or aunties who spend their time watching a lot of what I believe to be propaganda, right? Produced on YouTube or whatever to talk about the US versus China. So, you find a lot of people online commenting and also supporting certain causes that you wouldn't have expected Singaporeans to support, right? Yeah,
that is true. But I guess like that falls under the category of McCarthyism, which is a term I didn't know until today, because that was what he was being claimed to be guilty of. And basically, it is you accuse people without enough evidence, and it was made popular by U.S. Senator Joseph McCarthy in the mid-50s. So I mean, when you think about it, that influence, it's a circus It's a circus. But I think at the end of the day, still a net benefit
for who?
For this hearing to happen.
Net benefit for who?
Like I think just for general perception and of social media Like I think people,
as in social media, came out looking better.
No.
Okay.
I think
you think it's better for for the discourse around social media?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so, but now everything's about like this whole racist thing, at least a lot of the articles. But I think, actually, I don't know how many people care about this hearing.
I mean, a lot of people idolize the TikTok CEO now, for sure.
Yeah.
A lot of young people I know that I encountered even this morning were like, I think, saying good things about him. I think people hear about it, but the sad part is that they don't see the rest of the hearing, or they don't read about it. They just think that, it was just a racist attack against
witch hunt and all.
Witch hunt against a Singaporean man just trying to make a living by working in China.
Singapore.
Good living.
He lives in Singapore, right?
Yeah, GCB, good living.
GCB. It's a good class. It's a good class.
He served his 2 years in the military and all. So.
But so we'll put a link to the full 8 minutes between Tom Cotton and Show.
Yeah.
And of course, once you watch that on YouTube and all, you can kind of click on to see other people getting grilled and all.
Yeah.
So interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Well, cool. But also just thinking about, Singapore entities trying to, go overseas and make a name for themselves as well. This other entity has done the most, has taken the biggest step to make itself represent Singapore overseas. And what is this company?
It used to be known as the Singapore Repertory Theatre, which has been around for I think 30 years. And like as part of their 30th anniversary last year, they decided to rebrand, rename their company from Singapore Repertory Theatre to Singapore Theatre Company. So apparently, like the artistic director Gaurav Kirpalani said they've been thinking about changing the name from repertory because, like, admittedly, not many people know what the hell the word means. Like, I didn't.
Yeah.
But apparently, it's a repertory company comprises a group of full-time actors on payroll who perform works from an accepted canon of works. I didn't fucking hear the phrase canon of works before, also. So yeah, it's kind of an old-fashioned term. And they want to go international, so the Singapore Theatre Company, they feel, will help fly the flag better.
Yeah.
But since the announcement, there's been some pushback from the theatre community in Singapore. With claims such as, like from Ramachandran, who's one of the founding directors of Children's Theatre Act 3 Theatrics, Children's Theatre Company. To wear the name of Singapore, one has to incorporate the diverse elements of this beautiful nation.
Yeah.
One must be soaking with the blood, sweat, and tears of her citizens. I must want to stand up and sing Majulah Singapura when I am applauding your effort. And he told Straits Times that no company should have the right to call themselves the Singapore Theatre Company, because no one company can, encapsulate what Singapore theatre comprises.
Yeah.
And it was supported with other people on social media and all. So, Terence, that's the context.
Yeah.
Well, what are your thoughts, man?
I mean, admittedly, when I read it, I was like, oh yeah, like, wow, it's disrespectful to everyone else, right? And you just took over the name Singapore Theatre Company and all. But the more I thought about it, but they've been the Singapore Repertory Theatre, and the keyword is the word Singapore, right? It's been in their name for all this while already, right? And just understanding that repertory doesn't really reflect what they are, and they decide to do a name change. There's also a whole host of things that come with changing a name as well, right? Is it that you also have to start building your brand equity from scratch as well, even down to your SEO and people searching your company name and all. So they decided to go with something like quite meta, right? It's literally a Singapore Theatre Company. As a brand name, then I realized actually it's not that big a deal. Actually, it's probably not that, unless your own company name has like Singapore Theatre Company in it, you have a word in front that has like Harish's Singapore Theatre Company, then I think that's an issue, right? But if you don't,
why that one got issue?
Because there's 3 out of 4 words that are essentially the same name as your company, right? So that does affect your SEO and the search and all that, right? I would think technically there will be some issues, and grounds for challenging it, right? But yeah, this one is like, okay, it's like they just took a bit more of a meta kind of name, a bit like how when Facebook was going into the whole metaverse thing, they just called themselves Meta. Doesn't mean that everyone's like, you can't do it because it's going to ruin like the VR world for everyone else, right? You just work around it, Yeah. What do you think when
I thought when you say meta, you mean like a higher level.
That's what I meant also. But yeah, then the example of meta and metaverse also.
But how is Singapore Theatre Company high level? To me, it's the most basic name.
Yeah.
It's like we call ourselves Singapore Podcast Duo.
Okay. Yeah.
But that's like very on the nose. How is that meta?
It's self-referential in some ways, right? About what we do and everything.
Oh, I thought meta must be like, we are the language of Singapore, that kind of abstract kind of shit.
I think it's just meta is just sort of like, I see it, I use it in the sense of like there being some kind of self-awareness of what you're trying to do and everything, and being expressed in your name. That's how I was using the word meta.
I saw it, I didn't have that initial thought as like, oh, actually they should do this. To me, I'm like, what's the big fuss? Because first of all, it's a horrible name.
Yeah.
I really think it's a fucking horrible Singapore Theatre Company.
Yeah.
It feels like, theatre is normally, creative and expression. Is like Singapore Theatre Company.
Yeah, so generic.
Yeah, it's like we call ourselves Singapore Podcast Duo. And I feel like the complaints from... Okay, so I don't think it's the whole community. I think there are like a lot of vocal individuals. I do find it a bit like what, like that whole claim that no company should have their name Singapore behind it because there's no one company that can encapsulate all of theatre. I feel like you look at so many companies. I mean, okay, there's Singapore Airlines, right? But even in the media space, there's Singapore Chinese Orchestra, Singapore Symphony, and I don't know whether they are like private companies. Even Singapore Repertory or like now Singapore Theatre Company. I don't know what the ownership is like, but I did find the complaints a bit weird, lah. It almost feels like they were like, oh, shit, we should have thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you got a good point that the name is pretty bad. Like,
it's horrible.
Because it's like, on the flip side, you think, let's say you're looking for a wedding videographer, do you just like Google Singapore wedding videographer? Oh, Singapore wedding videographer
so
limited. I choose it. Okay, maybe SEO wise it comes up, but I think it just makes it feel very like
old,
cheapo, and run by a bunch of like people who don't know anything about branding and all that.
Yeah,
right?
It's like the company that came to mind was Ong Beng Singh's HPL, which stands for Hotel Properties Limited.
Okay.
So imagine you start a company. Okay, what do? We build hotel properties. What should we call ourselves? Hotel Properties Limited. Then it almost feels like
it's very old school, right?
Yeah, it's very old school. If I see that, I'll be like, oh shit, this company really started a long time ago. Whereas there's Wild Rice and like Checkpoint Theatre and so it's just a weird ass name, lah.
Yeah.
But the claim of like
they need to represent all diverse Singapore interests and all. I think these commenters are literally attributing too much power to the name already, right?
Yeah.
Already from day one, assuming that anyone who comes across your name will think that you are the authority on the theatre scene.
Yeah.
Which I don't think it is, yeah.
And I mean, like I think I've also seen that in maybe some of the more, like, let's say film, the film scene in Singapore. Sometimes we talk to people who are all about, we can't do this because, like, you have to respect this actor's expression and you need to focus on the person's face, And I'm like, fuck lah, you keep the shot on the person's face for 30 seconds. Why? Just cut. Cut. But there's like, there's the meaning and the double entendre. And I was like, shut up, lah. Who will watch it?
Who are you talking about?
I mean, I'm saying, lah. I'm just saying. Sometimes when I watch art house films, I'm like,
does it matter? Does it matter, no, Harsh? Does it matter?
Does it matter? And so this one, I think like what you said, like it's almost ascribing too much meaning to the name. In fact, if they take the name, I'm like, good, take the name, man.
Yeah, it's cheesy as fuck.
It's cheesy as fuck. At least repertory theatre,
There's
people
elegant about it.
Don't understand the word. You're like, it feels a bit like cultured and sophisticated. A Singapore Theatre Company.
Yeah.
STC.
It's the kind of placeholder that you put in like contracts and documents. Like, we're signing a contract with this Singapore Theatre Company. We just put there in brackets, Singapore Theatre Company.
Like the what?
Quotes.
Quotes. Aforementioned known as Singapore Theatre Company.
It sounds like something legal or some like legalese, Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And I'm like, wow, why they want to change the name to that? Singapore. So, and I mean, there was another playwright who said she's concerned STC's new name will lead to the eclipsing of these other Singaporean theatres.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know, man. It just feels like a weird claim because just by extending that, it means that if not for the name, the other theatres might have a chance. But because STC now has a Singapore Theatre Company name, it'll eclipse the other theatres. Then I'm like, but people don't choose theatres based on the name, why?
But okay, here's the but moment, right? I know because we're here we're in agreement about what's the fuss, right? Basically, there's a nuance to the theatre industry that you and I are not we know a little bit about, but we don't.
The plebeians.
We don't. We're laymen. We're laymen.
YouTubers are laymen.
We don't understand fully, but from what I know, SRT historically has been the one doing prestigious international productions and bringing them to Singapore, like Shakespeare in the Park. So it's like, high level theatre, like haute couture kind of art, right? Whereas more local productions are, like what you said, Wild Rice, Checkpoint, Act 3 and all that. So there is already possible. Okay, all this is speculation also on my part, not being in the industry. Maybe there's this perception that, these guys, SRT, they don't do local productions, all that. And then now they come and then they name themselves Singapore Theatre Company, As generic as it is like a step of like, it's like when you play Risk and all that and you take over a territory kind of feel to it, right? Like you cope this name so no one else can name it like what we said, Harish Singapore Theatre Company or whatever, like Terrence Singapore Theatre Company. And that's why there's added insult to injury for them, because it's not only just the name and what it represents, it's also because you don't actually do like Singapore content. And that's why they're like, okay, you want to take Singapore, you want to have Singapore in your name, okay, fine. But don't make it so generic that it sounds like you encapsulate all theatre in Singapore, That's what the bugbear is.
That actually is a good point. Because it's like one of those, now we say, like it's almost like two Singapores, right? You get like, there's a Singapore for the people who are born here, but there's a Singapore catered towards the big shiny stuff outside of Singapore. So again, speculation, but if that was the case, because I mean, even in this article, Straits Times, they said there are other theatres that are known for staging homegrown English scripts and mother tongue theatre, Malay-speaking theatre, Ikamatra, Mandarin Theatre Group, 9 Years Theatre, and the neophyte Tamil-focused Agam Theatre Lab. It's true that if maybe that's something that they can't say publicly on social media, but there's all these emotions coming out. Because I also know, like, let's say in media, there's a different tiers of artists that are afforded different levels of respect, justifiably or not justifiably.
Well, like what kind of
like
tiers?
Like the art house film, the auteur director. The film doesn't make any money, they're like worshipped as like this is what everyone should strive for. When their movies don't make money.
And then the other end of the spectrum is like Jack Neo.
Yeah, which people also shit on, but you can't fault him for making commercially successful films.
Yeah.
So I can imagine, again, speculation in theatre also, there are different, well, I wouldn't say tiers, but different groups and different sentiments. So maybe what we are seeing is we don't know what's under the surface.
Correct. Yeah.
That's actually a good point.
And to add on to that, this one I know, theatre scene funding and all that, it's tough to come by, right? There's a lot of small theatre companies that maybe do 1 production a year, 2 productions a year because of lack of funding. And for funding, what you really need is visibility. And a lot of times you need visibility amongst people who know nothing about the theatre scene. They're philanthropists or whatever. They come to Singapore, they set up a family office here, then they're like, I want to support the arts. What do I support? I want to be a patron. Who do I support? Do I support the small Harish company, or do I support the Singapore Theatre Company? Obviously, like you would think that one that's named Singapore Theatre Company probably has more clout, right? And it's bigger and all. Without thinking that, actually this Harish Theatre Company means so much more to the local community and helping people here than what a bigger company doing Shakespeare in the Park is doing, right? And then that's then it makes it an uphill climb for a small Harish company versus like Singapore Theatre Company.
That's true, because psychologically, if someone were to see two, especially like if it's competing online for clicks and all, I think maybe not the best. But the nature of theatre, which from our understanding, because we've spoken to people in the field, you do fundraise from philanthropists and individuals. And the name Singapore Theatre Company, it does sound like they've been around for longer. If we were to start an airline, right? Like let's say Tabletop Airlines. And versus Singapore Airlines. Singapore Airlines, it feels like, no, we have already gotten the country's approval.
Maybe that's it. That's why you got the country's approval.
Country's approval, Tabletop Airlines, they might be great, but we are Singapore. We were the first. It gives that image, they were the first.
And don't forget, Singapore brand right now around the world, as also just from
the Senate hearing,
TikTok CEO, right? Singapore brand is one of like, we're dependable, we're neutral, where we don't rock the boat, we're stable, right? We speak English, Chinese, we're multifaceted. So that is the attraction of Singapore to a lot of people overseas also. So when you have the word Singapore in your name, that's also that, I think that lends credibility to you as a business.
But then theatre versus repertory?
Repertory. I mean, it is an inaccurate description of what they do. But I'm sure when it was first founded and everything, there was a reason why they wanted to call it Repertory. There probably was a
repertories around the world.
They want to name their company after something significant or even something of historical value of that meant something to the founders and all that, right? So I don't say just because it's inaccurate now doesn't mean that it has no meaning, right? Back then. But if you ask me, like the world right now sees Singapore, the brand name of Singapore represents certain things that allow people to think about, oh, if I want to put money with somebody, I'll put money with the Singapore company, you know. I mean, completely unrelated, but I was always like very confused. Like I went to malls overseas, like in Thailand, the big malls. I was like, wow, there's everything here that you could possibly want to buy. Why would anybody want to go to shop in Singapore and buy, buy the same branded shit when you can buy it here in Thailand? And someone just told me the reason that Indonesians or Thais or whatever come to Singapore to buy, it's a flex to say that I bought it in Singapore. That's one. And two is that you know for sure that it's not fake. And that's the Singapore brand, you know for sure it's good. It's the real stuff, right? Singapore doesn't fuck around with like fake shit. Whereas they can't say the same of Indonesia and Thailand, you see.
That's true.
So there's something there in terms of like people being they take comfort in putting their money in a Singapore company,
That's true.
So maybe for theatre there is this dynamic going on that surface we're like, it's such a cheesy name, but to them it's like, dude, you're sweeping up all the funding and donors that will come in for theatre.
Because I mean, any name that needs to that has Singapore inside, it needs to be approved. So it's almost like if you have your Singapore name inside, but you're like a shitty company, chances are it might not be approved.
Yeah.
So the fact that they can is another stamp of approval.
Correct.
Just now when you were telling the story, it reminded me of like when I think last time my friend would go to KL, then buy a Man U jersey, and come back with like, where you got the jersey from? Malaysia. We're like, hey, fuck you lah. Can you buy the real one? He's like, no, it's real. I paid like $90 for it. The next thing would be, you cannot rip off.
Exactly.
I think everyone has had that conversation before where you almost cannot believe that when you go to like say it's a sad truth lah. I don't know how true it is now.
Yeah.
But someone goes to Malaysia, buy a jersey for $90. The first thought is that, wow, this guy cannot fleece. Cannot fleece. But if you say that in Singapore, it's not the first thought that comes to mind.
And you're like, oh yeah, Singapore, the price is like that long. It's like that. It's not, you can't like get a better deal. So you just go with it. And it's semi a flex lah, right? When you see it by Singapore.
So this one actually, maybe it's a bit more loaded than like just looking at it on the surface.
I think it is. Like both these topics that we talk about, like online they say this thing, but actually there's nuances to it that I think people the butts in the yalla butt right.
Wow, because I mean the managing director of and the artistic director of now STC said they were blindsided by the backlash. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah, but so this. Are we changing the name of our podcast to Singapore, the Singapore podcast?
No, okay, so that's the question. If there was another podcast that changed their name to Singapore Podcast Duo, like how would you feel?
I said go for it, man.
Got a shitty name, right?
Shitty name, and I think it's, to me, it's like the content stands out. I have trust in the Yalla Butt listenership too. You don't just listen to random daily shit because it's like, it's named as such.
Until Spotify lands the Singapore Podcast Duo a $10 million exclusive deal. Then you'll be like, fuck this shit. Fuck this shit. Why we never name ourselves? Singapore Yalla Butt, Singapore Duo.
But I mean, when coming to name your company or your YouTube channel, all these things, people should really think about what it means for them. And if 10 years later, they still want it to be named as such. Right?
Because I mean, we've put in a lot of thoughts into the name of everything. Ministry of Funny, Yalla Butt, Folklore.
Yeah.
Well, we could have done, Singapore YouTube channel. Singapore Podcast Duo. Singapore Interview Service.
Yeah. You're like that person who has Taylor Swift as their username on TikTok. Then you click and you're like, what the fuck is this shit?
Then my Instagram handle should be Singapore Actor.
Yeah.
Then you're Singapore Director. Tristen, Singapore Audio Engineer. Wow, fucking Singapore conglomerate.
Yeah, today we're officially changing our name to the Singapore Podcast.
Singapore Podcast. Singapore Podcast Duo.
Yeah.
Oh, but that is true. Interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, I don't think this is going to carry on much.
As in, they just carry on with the name
because
now,
they're sticking with it. They're sticking with it. I mean, the picture shows them sitting in front of their new logo, STC. Last time I also remember SBC, Singapore Broadcasting Company.
Corporation.
Singapore Broadcasting Corporation.
Yeah.
Then became TCS.
Television Corporation of Singapore.
Then MediaCorp.
Yeah.
MediaCorp.
Yeah. But I mean, that one is, it's affiliated. It's a national broadcaster. So I think...
True.
By right, they need to have Singapore in the name. Yeah.
True.
In fact, a lot of people were like, the name change to MediaCorp, if I remember correctly, a lot of people were like, huh? Well, what happened to the Singaporeanness of this entity?
That is true.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Cool.
So, on to the next section about the one Shiok thing. One Shiok comment. What is yours, Terrence?
I'd like to visit the very beautiful and supportive world of TikTok again. TikTok always is such an interesting thing. But yesterday I just discovered there's this word that I did not know that came out in comments on our TikTok, right? That it was pretty interesting. I think we did a video about the co-play, about why I wasn't going to co-play and we made a joke about touching the co-play balls and all that, right? So on TikTok, I think the caption was, "Are you a one ball or multi-ball kind of co-play fan?" Because that was our discussion. Some of the great opinions. L opinion, because nobody go with you, right? In fact, two people said that.
You,
yeah. Because nobody go with you, right? Man's majored in Japanese and tried to justify his point with balls. So yesterday that made me look up the word Japanese. And apparently, you know what the word Japanese is?
I can guess, lah.
Yeah. Hey, Tristen, do you know what Japanese is? Oh, he knows. Yeah, it's a Gen Y. It's a Gen Y thing. What's Japanese actually? Somebody's talking too much and knowing nothing about what he's talking about. Yeah.
Japanese.
Another great one. Self-important serial wannabes. Yeah.
Self-important serial or like the podcast
wannabes.
serial?
Yeah. No. As in serial wannabes. Like we always want to be.
Always want to be wannabes.
Yeah.
Walao.
We're always wannabes.
Great.
And then also talking about you, bros just speaking Japanese. That's both of us. Cannot go. Don't be shy. Don't need to act all macho. Oh. Yeah, that kind of thing. Fucking love TikTok.
Thank you, Show.
Thank you, Show, for keeping TikTok such a vibrant, healthy environment for conversation. Yes.
Walao. Awesome. My one Shiok comment is from Snow Dingoes 313, who we actually quoted on the previous podcast about how he was saying, in relation to the CDC vouchers being used to claim for happy endings at Heartland Massage Parlors.
Yeah.
So, because I think you highlighted it as your one Shiok comment, right? Then he responded on the latest episode. He said, "I've commented a few times that Terrence chose to pick that particular comment. Still glad it made your day." Anyway, and I'm saying this because it's on Reddit, it's public, and I really salute this guy for being so honest. Anyway, most of these special services are earned by the girls, while some boss might know about it and close one eye. They usually earn from the massage fee only. Some bosses actually forbid in fear of license being revoked, and the girls secretly do. That is why I say most likely the CDC vouchers is only for entrance. I could be wrong, though, because I'm mostly retired from the scene. And yes, I dare to admit I am a patron in my young single days.
Wow.
To be honest, my first thought when I found out was to use the CDC vouchers there too, but ended up I spent it on food for my daughter. So sweet lah. And then he also talked about, might want to talk about the visa-free law that our government has set up with China recently, and it makes it easier for girls from China to come here and work illegally as escorts and massage ladies lah. But I applaud the honesty there lah.
Yeah. This is as honest as it gets, man.
Yeah. How many people would be willing to admit that? So
and write it coherently and make sure that people, not just two of us, but people understand it.
Yeah. Snow Dingoes 313.
Snow Dingoes.
Yeah. Power lah. But yeah, thanks
for
316.
Why do you say 313?
316. 316. Snow Dingoes 316.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, but thanks for the honesty, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. And the one Shiok thing.
My one Shiok thing is actually it's a very dark thing. I think in the past week, if anyone who follows wrestling, there's been a bombshell complaint filed against the people would say the father of modern wrestling, right, Vince McMahon, into some really depraved and shocking and vile sexual assault that he has and manipulation that he's committed on a very young lady, right, who filed the complaint. And all this has come out in light of in the midst of like the WWE merging with UFC and The Rock joining the board and having making a lot of money and everything like right. So yeah, the whole case is very vile, and last week the complaint was filed. You can even read out the complaint. It's very vile. I wouldn't encourage people to read it if you want to eat your meals today. But yeah, there was a very interesting breakdown, or not say breakdown, a reaction to it from someone who used to work in WWE as a manager, right? They act as managers to wrestlers on show, Shiok Comment. So I think now he's retired or he's no longer in WWE. But they had a very he has his own podcast where he just reacted to what was going on in the whole case, lah. And I thought it was quite interesting because you really they go into like why would anyone be so shocked that a billionaire, rich, powerful billionaire like Vince McMahon is so depraved? Because a lot of people online are saying like, oh yeah, he's rich, he's a billionaire, obviously power gets him off and stuff like that, lah. But I think it's more nuanced than that. And this guy who has worked with Vince McMahon and all that before said that he even was like speculating, is it something to do with concussions that he's had while acting in the ring, playing, being in matches in the ring as an old man in his 50s and 60s, because the behavior is completely unhinged. It feels almost like it's a different person. So it does make I think it gives a bit more of nuance to what this whole saga has been about. And I enjoyed listening to him just talking about his experience with Vince McMahon.
It's a video interview or something.
It's a podcast, just audio, but it's on YouTube and all. So I'll put the link. But no, I mean, okay, it's not shook, it's not pleasant. But if you want to better understand all this nonsense that's going on, and just understand how they talk a little bit about the psychology of like rich, powerful people and what drives them to do crazy shit. Yeah, it's quite interesting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. How long is it?
I mean, an hour or something.
I haven't read the deposition yet, but I think I want to.
Yeah, I don't read it.
Just really to understand like the extent.
Yeah, it's nasty. There's defecating, there's like, sharing of like content with other people and crap. Very, very nasty. Really nasty. Like there's no way back from this. It's like horrible.
So will you go to jail? You'll go to jail?
I don't know about, they'll probably, no, this is a civil suit, I think. So there'll be a settlement and probably there'll be, if it goes to court and all, I think it's worse. So my guess is that they probably will try to find some settlement. But I don't know. Now it's still very early stages.
I see.
But it just, if even half of it is true, it's horrible. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sure.
But yes, that's my one Shiok thing.
Cool. My one Shiok thing is, recently, I think a few episodes ago, my one Shiok thing was Beef, the show. I finished it, and I will say that towards the end, I was like, I don't know whether it's a show that I would recommend, but I will say that watching it, right, the way it was directed, the way it was styled, was very, very eye-opening, very interesting. So over the weekend, I was just like, you know what, let me just shortlist shows on the streaming platforms that I wouldn't normally watch, but which feel so weird that even if it's not getting critical acclaim, I'm going to give it a shot. So the first one I started with is this show called I'm a Virgo, which was released in March 2023 as a mini-series, 7 episodes. Each episode like 30 minutes. An American absurdist comedy created by Boots Riley, who Boots Riley, I think he made the film Sorry to Bother You. So the whole premise, right, is that it revolves around this teenager, 19-year-old teenager called Kuti, who is 4 meters tall. And he's been raised by his auntie and uncle since born and shielded from the outside world. But he still consumes all the pop culture. And like when he's 19, he just ventures out and he discovers world, and he's 4 meters tall.
Yeah.
So the way they film it is quite interesting. I mean, the production budget doesn't look that huge. It's smart camera angles. But I watched the first episode, I'm like, hey, shit, this is a very cool concept. And I mean, after that, I Googled, I was like, it actually got some good reviews. So I'm like, hey, fuck, this is a weird-ass show. But I'm very happy that I gave it a shot. And yeah, I'm going to try and finish it and see how it goes.
What's it called again? Sorry?
I'm a Virgo.
I'm a Virgo.
Yeah, like the actors are not the most well-known or anything, but it's so absurdist that I really enjoyed the first episode.
I see.
So yeah, it's cool.
Wow. On what platform?
Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah. The first episode, the title episode is You Big Motherfucker.
You big motherfucker. M18, I suppose.
I think M18, yeah.
Got it. Okay.
But yeah, that was cool. Awesome.
Cool.
Cool. Come up to the end of the episode. As always, it'd be great if you could share it with one other person who has not heard of us.
Yeah.
And if you want to work with us specifically as an intern, could be like a few months to, I don't know, like Tristen started off as an intern and then now he's a core part of the team.
Core part, yeah.
So join us as an intern, work on some awesome shit. If you're interested, send us your resume at contact@ministryoffunny.com.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome, everybody. Thanks for listening.